Hi guys, Mike Reviews It All here. I recently did a video on Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson and Nick Diaz versus Tyrone Woodley for UFC 219, kind of throwing my thoughts out there. It was one of my most successful videos ever. Seems to be a lot of interest in getting Nate Diaz on this card, which is what's frustrating, that Dana is not going to pay Nate. His trainer came out and said, Nate's going to fight. Nate wants $15 million. He's not scared of anybody. This is the biggest weekend you're going to have in how many years? The biggest opportunity. December 30th, Saturday on New Year's Eve weekend. You have to get a good fighter on there, a headliner. Unless they're putting together this Tony Ferguson-Conor McGregor fight behind the scenes, which I've heard that they might be. And that they're waiting for the heat to come off of the whole Conor McGregor jumping in the ring at the Bellator event recently. And that makes sense. But why not put both of these guys on the same card? Boxing used to do this all the time. What they would do, and they had two big guys that they would want to fight. They would basically get two big pay-per-views out of it, because they would have both of them fight some kind of fringe contenders that weren't really a big threat to them, but they would, and they would bill it as, oh, these two guys are fighting on this card, and if both of them win their fights, then they're going to fight each other. So basically, you get two big pay-per-views out of these guys, where you just would have gotten one. Obviously, there's a lot more risk to Tony Ferguson could easily beat Conor McGregor. Nate Diaz would come in a pretty big underdog against Tyrone Woodley. So there's a lot of things that could happen here, but why would you not pay Nate Diaz? Why would you not give him his $15 million? You need stars. You're talking about how UFC's talking about how they have to get their money back for this $4 billion that they spent. Well, sometimes you got to spend money to make money. And the fans are really paying attention to fighters not getting paid. I see it on forums all over the place. I hear it from people that I talk to in the MMA community. They're really tired of seeing fighters not getting paid. And a lot of times that makes them feel justified to pirate a pay-per-view and not pay for it. I only get the very big pay-per-views that I'll pay for and watch anymore. Otherwise, I'm watching the FS1 shows and the Fox shows. So I might catch it on a replay sometime. But it's the really big fights. If Nate's on this card, I will buy it. And there are a ton of people that have told me they would buy it just if Nate Diaz is on this card, fighting either Tyrone Woodley or Tony Ferguson. So them saying that they're not going to pay $15 million to get hundreds of millions of dollars in pay-per-view buys in one of their worst pay-per-view years in over a decade for revenue. If you don't count the Mayweather-McGregor fight, which was actually a boxing promotion, this is one of the worst years for pay-per-view revenue, especially per event, that the UFC's had in over a decade. They're really on, they're in a spot where they could really go either way right now. Professional wrestling, believe it or not, is starting to see a slow incline again. And the UFC is showing a decline at the same time. Boxing showing an incline. And it's all about star power. You have to have your stars out there. This year, their stars were Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, and neither one of them fought. You have to get one of those guys in the cage. I say boycott UFC 219. If they don't get Nate Diaz or Conor McGregor in there, I'm not paying for it. I don't care what weekend it is, and I don't think you should pay for it either. I think this is a stand up. Get on Twitter, hashtag boycott UFC 219. Pay Nate. Hashtag pay Nate, hashtag boycott UFC 219. I think that's pretty simple. You're not going to pay Nate Diaz $15 million when you're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars, when Conor and Floyd just made $300 million between the two of them, literally. that's just stupid. That's just stupid business sense. And I'm not going to support that stupidity right now. And honestly, if that's the reason that they're going to hold Nate back and they're not going to pay him, I'm not ordering any UFC pay-per-views until you pay that guy. I know where my money's going. When I pay for a pay-per-view, my money goes to the UFC and part of it to the cable providers. And then I want to see the fighters getting paid. I don't need to lie in the pockets of billionaires. Yes, they're going to get their money. They own their business. But the fighters are the ones that are out there getting punched. They're the ones taking the punches. They're the ones getting slammed. The excuse was always with the UFC, oh, we're a growing organization. We're taking care of our fighters as much as we can. And while they were not making a lot of money, even in years where they were losing money, they paid their fighters. Thank you very much for that. But now you're making billions, hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in revenue. And you need to pay your fighters. You have live gates, just live gates of over $20 million. And then, you know, how many pay-per-views? A bad pay-per-views, you know, 250,000 buys. A good pay-per-view. You put Conor McGregor or Nate Diaz on there. I'm not talking about both of them. You just put either one of them on that card, and there's nobody that would say that that card is not at least $1 million buy pay-per-view, if not $1.5 million. You get both of them on there, you're pushing $2 million. You're pushing the record for a UFC pay-per-view. So, like I said, I'm calling for a boycott of UFC 219. If you're not going to pay Nate Diaz, boycott UFC 219. Just boycott the whole damn UFC. It's your money. You get to say what happens. If you don't like a company and you don't like what they're doing, you don't have to buy their services anymore. People did it to Uber. People have done it to other things. Boycotting is one of the most effective ways that we can get our voices heard. So thanks for tuning in to another podcast. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. If you agree with me, if you think I'm being too harsh here, let me know back in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as I see your comments and read them. Please give me a like and a thumbs up. Please subscribe. We have another live cast coming up here soon. We're going to do a live UFC cast. Sorry, it's raining on my lunch. It's really freaking loud. But I thank you for supporting me, and I will see you guys later in the week. Have a great week.